Hi, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and I'm finally going to start recording again. It's been a while. I took a couple weeks off. Today I'm going to start off by working on my Ender 3 V2 Neo. I'm installing a Bigtreetech Manta E3EZ version 1.0 board and some various accessories that go with that, including a screen. So let's go ahead and get started. So for this project, I actually have several different parts. I've gotten the Manta E3EZ board. I have a TFT screen that I'm going to do, I believe, coupler screen on. I have CAN board for the board, and then the CB1 version 2.2 board as well. And I'll be honest, I've never used any of these. And then somewhere here, I have the stepper motors. Those were a little different how those came packaged. So here's the package for those. So these are 2209s. And there's 5 of them, so I should be able to do dual Z. So that's good. And the only other thing I want to point out is the way you mount this board is you actually print a new piece. This goes on the front of the printer. So I need to take off the case, and then I'm basically replacing part of the case with this. Now, Bigtreetech actually has this on their website. So I've just downloaded this model, and then I'm going to put it together. Now, this may mean it's a little weird on how I'm showing you the wiring. And let me get all the directions pulled up on screen so we can follow along, and we'll get this all wired and set up. As with any Bigtreetech project, I'm going to start off on their GitHub page. They do have a page set up for their E3EZ board. And here is where I've gotten the Ender 3 V2 STL for the case I showed you earlier that we'll have to install. There's copies, and these are old, of the firmware, hardware, and then most importantly, here's the manual. So let me download that, and I'll get that open, and we'll start going through the manual page by page. I'm going to start off in the manual on this diagram. This will let me see how everything's set up and how I need to put it all together. Everything appears to be really well labeled, so I can see everything. So let's just take a look at the parts I have, and then we'll start putting it all together. Start off by taking a look at the board. So I have lots of screws and connectors here. I'll put that aside. I have my rubber ducky, and I believe I'm going to have several rubber duckies. So with this board, let's take it out and we'll take a quick look at it. The board's actually fairly heavy. So put the papers aside here. So that's actually really heavy. And then let's see what else we have here we can put together. Here's the CAN board. I'm not sure I need this right away, but I'll install it. Pull that out, just so we can see everything. And this is going to go right in here, it looks like. So we'll put that aside. But I want everything out of the boxes just so I can see it. Oh, here's another rubber ducky. There's more wiring. I'm going to put that aside. Probably going to need to do something with that. So here's the CB1 board. And I believe that's going to go somewhere in here. I'll have to figure out how that actually gets installed and mounted. Probably something like this. Like I said, I'll figure that out. Well, might help to actually probably upside down like this. Oh, like I said, I'll figure this out. And lastly, I have the screen over here. more rubber duckies. I'm going to have more rubber duckies than I know what to do with here. Another ribbon cable, put that aside. And here is the screen. Now I'll probably have to print a case for this. I didn't think about that. But still, I should be able to put most everything together. If I have to print a case later, I can. Now, I'm probably going to start off by just, let me install these drivers here. Get those put in. And I'll have to figure out how they go in. So I have that, once I have these installed, I don't, as I'm installing these, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'd rather have them installed because it's easier for me to deal with it here than with it installed in the case. Now, let's take a quick look at this too. So this is the top, and it's looking like it's going to go something like this. And as you can see, the connections are right there. So I have an SD card and then a micro USB here as well. So this will be something like this. And hopefully I should have screws that can go in here. So I said it'll sit something like this, but I'm going to leave it out for right now. And then let's switch over to the manual and see what we need to do. So I'm going to just snap the CB1 board in here. It just snaps right in. So that was fairly easy to work with. So that just snaps in place. And you notice how I have it oriented. So the silver spot here is pointing towards the power and whatnot. That looks correct. So that's installed. And then I think I need to install this heat sink on top of it. And let me figure out how this needs to be oriented. So I think that looks correct right there. So I'll go ahead and screw that in here in a minute. Here's the screw, so I do have that. And let me see if I can figure this all out. So let me refer over to the directions, and we'll see how this needs to go. Now by default, my board came set up, and I'm going to hold this close to the camera, with the jumpers here. There's jumpers on each of the TMC's 2209s. And the voltage here is set up. If I flip the board over, it looks like it's set up right now to do 24 volt. And the options reading the small tiny print is 24 volt or 48 volt. I have it set for 24 volt. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Those jumpers are already set. Looking over at the directions, there are jumpers for sensorless homing. I'm not going to use sensorless homing, so I am just going to leave the jumpers off. The board came with the jumpers not set, so that's correct. So we'll leave those as is. So I'm not going to set those. I'm going to go ahead and just put on this heat sink. And the screws that are for this actually came in with the motherboard, as opposed to in with the heat sink itself. I think it actually says somewhere here that the screws, they had to change screw sizes. And I think I just tried the old screw. Let's put those aside. And I might need those to install the board. Put those over there. They said these are slightly smaller screws. And that's actually biting, so that's correct. I bought this off Bigtreetech's website, and it was a little kit that had everything. Now they also have it on Amazon. Amazon, yeah, you'll have to find the different parts and pieces. It's not all as one kit. You'll have to buy the pieces separately. And I'll list them below in the video description. Same with the Bigtreetech site. So there I have the heatsink for the CB1 installed. Like I said, this is a pretty beefy board. And this will need to be installed something like this. And what I think I'm going to do, let me decide whether I want to install this first here. Let me go ahead and install this on my electronics case. Let me figure out what screws I need, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've switched around my cameras a little bit so we can see in here. There were actually 3 screws in the bottom panel here, so I had to undo those. Now, I had forgotten, it's been a long time since I messed with the default board, and the one thing I'm seeing here is Creality does not skimp on the glue. So I'm going to jump off camera and then try to pull apart some of this glue so I can get these wires unplugged, because this is going to be a little difficult to deal with. As you can see, I mean, there's glue all over these pieces. And right now I just have the fan hanging down, which I don't like. I did try to unplug it and then realized, wait, all this dang glue's here. So let me get a small pair of pliers, maybe needle nose pliers, and I'll sit here and wrestle with the glue to get this cleaned out, and then we'll proceed with the wiring. As I'm working on picking apart this glue, just something I want to mention that is very beneficial before you start pulling out the wires. Always, always, always take a picture. That way you can look back and just see exactly what the default wires were. It's helpful too in case there's something wrong with your new board. You can go back real easy. So just remember to take lots of pictures. That's what I do, so I have them so I can reference it. And occasionally it's helpful too, because somebody will email me or message me with a question, and I can at least look back and see what my pictures look like. As you can see, there's just so much glue in here. And I guess Creality, which you're never going to be listening to this, but if somebody at Creality ever runs across this, don't glue your stuff in. If you're using good enough connections, you shouldn't need to. And I mean, all it does is make it harder to do any upgrades or any work. And since you do sell upgraded boards for most of your printers, I think it'd be helpful if you didn't do the glue. So let me keep working on this and I'll be back. I know this is something silly I do, but I can see where all the red wires are now. So I'm just going to color in the screws there. So that way when I pull this all apart, I know what went where. Like I said, I know that's silly, but it helps me remember. And then when I pull this out, I can make sure I know which one's going where. So let me continue to pull this out. As you can see, I've got mostly everything undone, and I still have hunks of glue on just about all these wires, which just make me nutty. Because now I'm worried things aren't going to sit right or I've damaged the wires. But it is what it is. Yeah, the thing is, I cut myself, and now I have blood everywhere as well. So anyway, if it's not Sharpie on my board, it's probably blood. So let me keep going. So now, besides the wiring diagram for Bigtreetech, I've also pulled out a wiring diagram for the Creality board. That way I can just match things up. Now I apologize, this was the best drawing I could find. This seems to be the drawing everybody's using. And of course you can see it's not crystal clear. So I'm just going to have to do the best I can with this. So I'll apologize for that right off the bat. Let me go ahead and start with the wiring. Now I'm sort of angling things here. I'm not putting in the board yet because I'm going to need a little bit of room. When this is sitting in here correctly, it's going to be down like this. And it's going to be really close here, and I'm not sure I can get the wires in there real well. So I'm just going to angle it out like this. That feels pretty safe. And right now, right here is the DC in. So there's the power cords. And over here, I have all the cords for the printer itself. So let me cut these. Got some twist ties here. Cut those out so that way I can just have free movement with all these wires. Because I'm not sure how this is all going to sit once I'm done. Now, I need to give the requisite warning that make sure everything's unplugged before you get started. I'll pull out the display wire here in a couple minutes. I'm going to loosen these first. And let's go ahead and insert the power. So I'm going to start with the positive wire. Let's put this in here. Now I'm looking at this. Before I go ahead and do that, let me put the caps on here. So let me get my kit out and I'll do that. So I'm just putting new terminals on here. And that feels nice and snug. Again, nice and snug. So I'm just doing that so consistent with all my printers. I apologize for bumping the camera, but this is a very awkward angle. Okay. So I have the power hooked up. And now we're going to do the heated bed. So we got this mess of wires here. Again, let me put those connectors on here, the terminals. That way we'll increase safety. Like I said, I do this. I think this makes it a little safer and cleaner. Okay. And so we want red. Goes in here. I said I have to work this in a little bit. These terminals are a little bit big, and that's part of my problem. Oh, there we go. Slipped right in. Just need to loosen a little bit more. Okay. Now, so we have the power in, heated bed. Now we need to do the hot end. The hot end doesn't matter which way these go. And just to be consistent, let's get some terminals on here first. Let me loosen this up a little bit. And once I have these all installed, I'll put the rest of the board together. So I need to find ones that fit. And that feels good. You can see I put a new terminal on there. All my terminals are all messed up because I dropped them. Not for this video, I did that previously, and now they're all a big mess, so I can't even figure out. I have to test every one of them to make them work. Okay. So now we're going to put these in here. As I said, these don't matter. Good. So now we have all the critical power wires in. Now there is a fan wire here that's loose, and I'm going to put a connector on the end here. So I'll take care of that. And let me go ahead and see if we can sort of get this into place. Now, one thing I don't like, I'm noticing, is I'm bending the heck out of these wires here. Sort of get them in. I think I'm going to leave this out till I get the rest of the board wired. Oh no, let me go ahead and do this upright. So I'm going to put the wires. I think the only screw I'm going to put in now are these big ones. So I'll put these bigger screws in to hold it in place. So I'm just doing these on the end. That should hold that steady. Okay, and that's sort of in place. There's a pretty big gap up at the top here, which I don't necessarily love. Let me look and see how this is oriented. Oh, it's not horrible, but it's not great either. I'm just gonna ignore it. Okay, just making sure the bed slides. Yeah, I'm all right with there being a gap. I can always redesign that later. So Bigtreetech, it looks like this needs to be adjusted a little bit. You know what? That's okay. Let's not get OCD about it. I really just want to use this new board. I'm just going to pick off some more glue. And then we'll work on all the connectors I can figure out. And then we'll switch over and take a look at, we'll put a connector on, I think this is the hot end fan. I think. Of course, some of these, which stinks, usually Creality is really good with making sure all their wires are labeled. And of course, these are not. That's a bit of a problem. Let me just go through and I'll see what I can figure out. Also look and see where the picture showed things plugged in, and then see what we can figure. So let me get going with wiring this all up. So I'm just going to start with the easy ones, everything that's labeled. And the X motor is going to go all the way down here in this corner. Here's the labeled piece. So let's get that installed. So there's X. Next one up is Y. And let me get this picture in picture so you can see the diagram I'm going by. So hopefully you can see this a little bit now. Now this is right up in this area here. That is this bottom corner over here, just so we can figure out how that's oriented. Let me see if I can rotate this image so they're sort of lined up the same. So hopefully you can see this a little bit better. So now I have the Y motor. That's going right here. Like I said, there's a tight space, and I have fat fingers. Okay. So now Y is in. Next we have Z, and on my Z, I actually have two Z's going into here. I don't want that. I actually want a Z for each motor. So let me find another wire and I'll run two Z's in. So I found an extension cable here for my steppers. And I'm just going to use that. I just threw away the rubber band. I want to save that. What I'll do is I actually don't need that much. going to slip this through up here. Or maybe not. I complained about that being too wide, and now I can't get this through. Let's see if I can get it down there. So let me loosen this top thing back up, and I'll slip this wire through. So I have my extension installed here, and let's get back to wiring. So here's C. Let's pick off more glue because it's everywhere at this point. I'm going to say this is Z1. I'm going to go with my extension as Z2. Again, I apologize for hitting the camera. I have to work at the bottom of the printer here. And at the top here, I have E0. So let's grab that and install it. So we have all that installed. Now, let's look at the diagram and get our BLTouch installed. So I'll start with the end stops. Now, if I'm interpreting this right, here is the X end stop right here. So X end stop. Right next to it is the Y end stop. And thread these wires around. Y end stop. Again, lots of glue. Y end stop is in. And let's keep looking here. What do we have? So we have the part cooling fan here. Sure, this is the hot end fan. What I'm not seeing is our thermistors. I'm wondering if that's what this black one is. So let me look. Let me look at my wires here and then figure out which one of these switch. Okay, actually, I think this was pretty simple. This black one here is the heated bed thermistor. And that's going to go right up here. Then underneath of it is the hot end. Now, we have the fans. So we have part cooling fan here. And then I have the hot end fan. The part cooling fan, hot end fan. This needs a connector on it, so I'll have to figure out which one's which here. I'll take a look. And then I have the BLTouch. Now the BLTouch looks like it plugs in right in here, but this has this clip on here. So I'm either going to have to rewire this or do something about this clip. Now what I'm going to try to do is cut it off. So I think if I can just cut it off, I can slip this in. Yeah, there we go. So I just cut off that clip, and then got that in there. Now, I want to read through the directions here a little bit. Here are my three fans right here. So I need to figure out which one's which. My fan on my bed, not my bed, the case fan will go right up in here. So let me pause for a minute so I can look at the directions and just make sure I know which fan goes where. So I've gone over the Rat Rig site, and they have a nice diagram here. It looks like I have part cooling fan is going to go, and that's this yellow and blue one. That's going to go down here at the bottom. Part cooling fan. Next, we're going to have so we have the part cooling fan. Then I'm going to go into the hot end fan. First, let me go ahead and put a connector on the end here, and that way I can work with that. So I'll do that off camera and then come back. Okay, so I've put a connector on here. Let's see if this slips in here. I like this rat rake diagram because it does show me positive and negative, so I can see that real well. And then the last wire I have to do here, let me pull out the display cable. I guess I have 2 wires I have to do. I have to do my display wire, the new display. And I'm not even sure how I'm going to run that. I'll figure that out in a minute. So the fan for the case, and do something like this. That should go right here. Again, I'm going based on this rat rake diagram. Now, I'm just going to look through here. It looks like I have every wire connected except my screen. So the screen I'm going to have to install next. And so let me go ahead and figure out the screen, and then we'll come back. To get the screen, I'm going to need to loosen this again. Now, I don't know how I'm going to mount the screen. I'm just going to have it sitting here right now. I'm going to have to do some research into how I want to make this work. But that's okay for right now. I'm going to be very gentle with this. What I'm going to do is I have a ribbon cable for this. This needs to go right over in here. And I believe, from what I can tell, it needs to go blue side facing up. See if I can just give myself enough room to slip this in here. This is really uncomfortable. That actually looks straight. Okay, so we have that in. And now the screen's going to come up. I think I'm going to have it come up sort of towards the front, but I'm worried a little bit less about that now. It looks like tentatively I have all the wires in here. I have a lot of wires. So let's see if we can get the bottom of the case back on. This is going to be a little bit of a bear to push in here. So I've gone ahead and I've gotten the case all on. Printer's all ready to go. You notice I have the power on, BLTouch powered up. The screen, I connected the ribbon cable to the back here, and the screen is showing at least a white screen. So I have all that going for me. Now my next step is to configure the firmware and the CB1 board, and I'll have to look at the directions and figure out what my next steps are. With that, I think I'm going to pause for the night, and then I'll do a second video. I'll probably publish that in a day or two with the rest of the steps. But I want to thank you for joining me. It feels good to be recording again. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please post them below. I'm hoping that this is some better sound. I've really worked on it. Sound appears to be one of my big nemesis as I'm recording, mainly because I don't hear too well, I guess. So I can't tell the difference. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. Hope you have a great night. Talk to you soon. Bye. Bye. This is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you need some additional help, I've also posted some links in the video description. You can set up a 15-minute help session with me, and I'm more than happy to sit down with you and see if I can help you out. If you need some additional help, I'm also going to try doing 1-hour sessions for anybody that's interested. And like I said, I'm testing this stuff out. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again next time. Thanks. Have a good day.